what advice would you give your younger self?
That's, this is going to sound really cliche, but I think the advice I would give my younger self is don't sweat the small stuff. Those times when your parents were like, what are you doing? Or when, I think my mother's illness really put life in perspective for me. And, you realize how grateful you need to be every day and for everything we have when it comes down to our health, obviously. And obviously with the pandemic, I think we're all learning that in spades. But I think, a lot of times when we are all type A personalities, we think about our life and we're like, okay, we need to do this and this and this. And I threw that out the window when I went through changing majors. I remember that was a really tough time for me because it was a hard conversation to have, to tell your parents like, hey, I'm not going to be a doctor, especially because, as an immigrant child, they put so much faith in you because you're almost a version of them, an extension of them and their future. So more than disappointing them, it was more like the instability that they felt that they would have in terms of who you are. And so that was, I think really, that was for me a moment in life where I learned over those years, and I would say it was not 1 year, it was years, that everything just kind of works out. You have to love what you do. You have to be willing to work hard at it. And, but don't sweat the small stuff because everything happens for a reason. And if you look back at my life, like the point that we just talked about, the fact that I worked at ABC News, the fact that I worked at the Walt Disney Company, I would have never thought those things would be useful, but they are. They're very useful in the role that I am in today. And I've been able to call on experiences, and everything happens for a reason, and being able to find the beauty and step back and look at why are those things happening to me today, and maybe that'll help me for something in the future. But really just like, focusing on the big picture and not sweating the small stuff. That would probably be the biggest piece of advice, because I remember those days where I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen with everything, so it's that's, I think, the biggest lesson I would share.